The sound of raised voices hits me before I even reach my front door. I pause, key hovering near the lock, and recognize my mother's controlled tone, the one she used to deploy when dealing with unruly students. But it's Mark's voice that makes my stomach clench, that harsh edge I've been hearing more frequently lately. I'm Vera, and this wasn't exactly the homecoming I'd pictured after closing our company's biggest deal to date. You need to back off, Mark says, each word sharp as broken glass. This is between me and my wife. When you start spreading lies about my daughter, it becomes my business. The door creaks as I push it open. They both whirl toward me, Mark in his rumpled work shirt, Mother in her sensible cardigan. The living room feels smaller somehow, compressed by the tension. What's going on? I ask, though part of me doesn't want to know. Mark's face twists into something between a smile and a sneer. Your mother took it upon herself to come over and lecture me about our marriage. Apparently, I'm not being supportive enough of your precious career. That's not what Mother starts, but Mark cuts her off. Tell me, Grace, how many marriages have you had? One? And how did that work out? Mark. The word escapes me before I can stop it. My mother's face has gone pale, her hands clasped tightly in front of her. It's fine, Vera, she says quietly. I should go. She moves past me, pausing only to squeeze my arm. Call me later? I nod, watching her retrieve her purse and leave. The click of the door feels like a gunshot in the silence. Was that necessary? I turn to Mark, who's now loosening his tie with jerky movements. You know how sensitive she is about Dad. Oh, I'm sorry. Should I have just sat here while she accused me of being jealous of my successful wife? His laugh is bitter. Though maybe she has a point. How was San Francisco? Did you wow them all with your brilliant presentation? The deal went through, if that's what you're asking. I set down my laptop bag, noting the empty whiskey glass on the coffee table. We're launching in 3 months. Fantastic. Another few months of late nights and business trips. Living the dream, aren't you? Something in his tone makes me look closer. His eyes are slightly unfocused, his movements too precise, like someone trying very hard to appear sober. How many of those have you had? Don't start. He drops onto the couch. Your mother already gave me the alcoholic lecture. Apparently, I'm destroying myself because I can't handle my wife's success. That's the story she's telling everyone, isn't it? Nobody's telling stories, Mark. But Mom's worried. I'm worried. Right. Saint Vera, always so concerned. He stands abruptly. You know what? I don't need this. I'm going out. It's almost 9. Tommy's expecting me. At least he understands what it's like, living in someone's shadow. The door slams behind him, leaving me alone in our suddenly too quiet house. My phone buzzes, a text from Sophie asking how the trip went. I stare at it, unable to form a response. How do I tell my best friend that while I was securing my dream project, my marriage seems to be crumbling? I walk to the coffee table and pick up Mark's glass, the remnants of amber liquid catching the light. Something's changed in him. Something deeper than just resentment over my promotion. The Mark I married 5 years ago would never have spoken to my mother that way, would never have stormed out to drink with Tommy on a weeknight. The question is, what am I going to do about it? I stare at the spreadsheet on my laptop, but the numbers blur together. 3 days since Mark's outburst, and our conversations have devolved into monosyllables and careful politeness, the kind that cuts deeper than shouting ever could. My phone lights up with Sophie's name. Please tell me you're free for lunch, she says when I answer. I'm dying to hear about San Francisco, and you sound like you need to talk. An hour later, we're tucked into our usual corner booth at Marino's. Sophie takes one look at my face and pushes her wine glass toward me. Drink, then talk. It's nothing, I say, but take a sip anyway. Just marriage stuff. Bullshit. You've got that same look you had when Jenkins tried to take credit for your marketing strategy last year. What did Mark do? Before I can answer, my phone buzzes. A text from my mother. Tommy's wife just called. Says Mark's been telling people at work that you're neglecting your marriage for your career. Should we talk? My hands shake as I show Sophie the message. She reads it twice, her expression darkening. That manipulative bastard. No wonder he's been hanging around Tommy so much. What do you mean? Tommy's on the promotion committee at Mark's firm, isn't he? The one Mark's been gunning for? The realization hits like a punch to the gut. All those late-night drinks with Tommy, the sudden interest in golf. Mark's been playing a longer game than I realized. He's using our marriage to gain sympathy, I say slowly, making himself look like the supportive husband dealing with an ambitious wife who's lost her way. Sophie's about to respond when I spot a familiar face entering the restaurant. Rachel Monroe, our new intern, walking in with Mark. They take a table across the room, neither noticing us in our corner. His hand brushes her arm as they sit, and something in my chest turns to ice. Don't, Sophie warns, but I'm already standing. I approach their table, keeping my voice steady. Funny running into you here, Mark. I thought you had that big presentation today. Rachel jumps slightly, her cheeks flushing. Mark's smile doesn't reach his eyes. Vera, Rachel here had some questions about potentially moving into finance. I thought I'd offer some mentoring over lunch. How generous of you. I turn to Rachel. Though I'm surprised, considering how enthusiastic you've been about the marketing program. Oh, I am, Rachel says quickly. It's good to explore options, right? Absolutely. I maintain my professional smile. In fact, why don't you join me and Sophie? We were just discussing the San Francisco launch. Could be valuable insight for your final project. Mark's jaw tightens. Actually, we were... Perfect. Rachel stands, gathering her things. I'd love to hear about San Francisco. Thanks for lunch, Mark. I watch him leave, his shoulders rigid with anger. Rachel follows me back to our booth, chattering nervously about the launch timeline. But my mind is racing ahead, connecting dots I should have seen weeks ago. The late nights, the sudden interest in mentoring, the careful construction of his victim narrative at work. Each piece clicks into place like a lock tumbling open. Rachel, I interrupt her mid-sentence about marketing metrics. How long has Mark been offering to mentor you? She hesitates, glancing between Sophie and me. About 3 weeks. Since the day you announced the San Francisco deal, actually. He said he noticed my potential and thought I might be wasting it in marketing. Sophie's hand finds mine under the table, squeezing hard. We both know what this means. Mark isn't just trying to undermine my reputation. He's actively working to poach one of my most promising team members, using her to twist the knife deeper. Rachel, I say carefully, I think we need to have a longer conversation about Mark's mentoring style, but not here. As Rachel excuses herself to use the restroom, Sophie leans in. What are you going to do? I watch Mark's empty chair across the restaurant, something cold and determined settling in my chest. First, I'm going to protect Rachel. Then, I'm going to show my dear husband exactly what an ambitious wife is capable of. The company launch party pulses with energy, but I can't shake the chill that settled in my spine when I spotted Mark talking to Tommy by the bar. They shouldn't even be here. Spouses rarely attend these internal celebrations, but Mark insisted, claiming he wanted to support my success. I watch him work the room, all charm and easy smiles. He's good. I'll give him that. Each conversation seems casual, but I notice how he keeps steering people toward Tommy, how their discussions always end with knowing looks and sympathetic nods. Your husband's quite the social butterfly, Rachel whispers, appearing at my elbow. Since our lunch revelation, she's been feeding me information about Mark's mentoring attempts. He just spent 20 minutes telling the CEO's wife about how you missed your anniversary dinner for a client call. Interesting, considering our anniversary isn't for 3 months. Rachel fidgets with her champagne glass. There's something else. Tommy offered me an internship at their firm. Said Mark recommended me. The room suddenly feels too warm, too crowded. When? Just now. They're creating a special position. Better pay, fast track to management. She trails off, watching my face. I told them I needed time to think. Before I can respond, Mark's voice carries across the room. He's telling a story, gesturing animatedly to a group that includes several board members. And I said, Honey, I know your career matters, but family should come first, right? Laughter ripples through his audience. I start moving before I realize it, but Sophie intercepts me. Not here, she murmurs. That's what he wants. Did you hear what Tommy just offered Rachel? Yes, and it gets worse. Sophie glances around before continuing. I overheard them earlier. Mark's been documenting everything. Your late nights, business trips, even that argument with your mother. He's building a case for that promotion, painting himself as the devoted husband, sacrificing everything for his wife's ambition. My hands shake as I set down my untouched champagne. He's using my success to manipulate his way up the corporate ladder, while simultaneously trying to poach your best intern, Sophie adds. It's actually brilliant in a sociopathic way. A commotion near the stage draws our attention. Tommy's calling for everyone's attention, swaying slightly. Mark stands beside him, that familiar false modesty plastered across his face. I want to propose a toast, Tommy announces, to Mark Thompson. Not many men would support their wives the way he has, especially when it means putting their own dreams on hold. The promotion committee has noticed, my friend. We need more leaders like you. The room erupts in applause. Mark catches my eye across the crowd, and for a moment his mask slips. I see it all. The satisfaction, the calculated cruelty, the triumph. He planned this entire evening knowing I couldn't react without seeming like the unstable, career-obsessed wife he's portrayed me to be. I need air, I mutter to Sophie, pushing through the crowd toward the balcony. But as I reach the doors, I hear Rachel's voice from around the corner. I can't keep doing this, Mark. She trusts me. And you're honoring that trust by helping her see what really matters. The internship is yours if you want it, Rachel. Just stick to the plan. My world tilts sideways. Rachel's been playing both sides, feeding information to Mark while pretending to help me. Every piece of evidence I thought I had is compromised. I back away silently, my mind racing. Mark hasn't just been undermining me. He's orchestrated an entire campaign to dismantle everything I've built. My marriage, my career, my relationships. All while positioning himself as the sympathetic victim. Sophie finds me in my office, staring at the city lights below. What are you going to do? I think about the careful way Mark has constructed his narrative, how he's turned my strength into weakness, my success into selfishness, how he's manipulated everyone around us into supporting his version of events. You know what happens to people who try to build themselves up by tearing others down? I ask quietly. Eventually, their foundation crumbles. Mark wants to play the long game? Fine. But he's about to learn he's not the only one who knows how to be patient. The numbers on my quarterly report swim before my eyes. Third time I've read the same line and still nothing registers. My phone lights up. Another message from my mother asking if I'm coming to Sunday dinner. I ignore it, just like I've ignored the last 5. A knock on my office door makes me jump. Rachel stands there, pale and fidgeting. Can we talk? I gesture to the chair, noting how she closes the door behind her. If this is about the internship, it's worse. She places her phone on my desk, slides it toward me. Mark's been recording our conversations. My stomach drops as I press play. My own voice comes through clearly, discussing confidential details about the San Francisco launch. Then Mark's voice. Perfect. This is exactly what we need. There's more, Rachel whispers. Tommy's wife found emails. Mark's been building a case against you for months. They're planning to use the launch information to prove you've been sharing company secrets. The irony burns. He's using my trust in Rachel to paint me as untrustworthy. Classic projection. Why are you showing me this now? Rachel's eyes fill with tears. Because he promised he was just trying to save your marriage. But yesterday, I overheard him telling Tommy this would destroy her career and her credibility in one shot. I never meant... My desk phone buzzes. Mrs. Thompson, the board requests your presence in the main conference room. Time slows. Through my office windows, I see Mark stepping off the elevator with Tommy and 2 board members. He catches my eye, gives that same triumphant smile from the party. Rachel, I say quietly, I need you to leave. Now, take the back stairs. I'm so sorry. Not now. Just go. Sophie calls as I'm walking to the conference room. Don't react, she says without preamble. I just got off the phone with Grace. Mark's been visiting your father. I stop walking. What? Your mother followed him yesterday. He's been meeting with your father for weeks, getting him to sign some kind of statement about your pattern of abandoning family obligations. My father, who left us when I was 12, who I haven't spoken to in 15 years, the ultimate betrayal weapon. Vera, are you there? I have to go. I manage. The board's waiting. I end the call, straighten my spine, and push open the conference room doors. Mark sits there with his concerned husband expression perfectly arranged, documentation spread before him like weapons. Mrs. Thompson, the CEO begins. Serious allegations have been brought to our attention regarding the mishandling of confidential information. I tune out his words, watching Mark instead. He's played this masterfully, using Rachel to gather evidence, Tommy to provide corporate credibility, even my own father to destroy my personal reputation. Every relationship weaponized, every trust betrayed. But he's forgotten something crucial about me. Something our marriage counselor noted years ago. I'm at my most dangerous when backed into a corner. Before we continue, I interrupt, I'd like to present some information of my own. I pull out my phone, start a recording. Rachel, are you still there? Yes, comes her shaky voice through the speaker. And I'm willing to testify about everything. The recordings, the setup, all of it. Mark's smile falters for the first time. Additionally, I continue, I have emails documenting the orchestration of this entire scheme. But more importantly, I turn to Tommy, whose face has gone ashen. Did Mark tell you his promotion strategy involved corporate espionage? Because that's what recording confidential conversations amounts to. The room erupts in chaos. As security escorts Mark out, he hisses, "This isn't over." No, I agree quietly, watching him go. But it's about to be. Later, alone in my office, I stare at my father's number on my phone. Mark thought he was destroying me by dredging up my past. Instead, he's given me something invaluable, the final push I needed to face it. I press dial, ready to confront the first man who taught me about betrayal. It's time to end this, all of it on my terms. The house feels like a tomb when I return from work. Mark's car is in the driveway, but the silence stretches thick and dangerous between us. I find him in his home office, methodically shredding documents. Destroying evidence? I lean against the door frame, watching paper disappear into strips. He doesn't look up. Just cleaning house, like you did at the board meeting. You tried to destroy my career, and you destroyed mine. The shredder whirs to a stop. Funny how that worked out. Why my father? The question burns in my throat. Of all the lines you could cross. Because he understands what it's like to live with someone who puts ambition above everything else. Mark finally meets my eyes. Did you know he remarried? Has 2 kids. Built the family he always wanted, once he got away from the Thompson women's crushing expectations. My fingers dig into the door frame. You don't get to use my father's abandonment to justify your betrayal. Don't I? You abandoned our marriage the moment that promotion came through. The late nights, the trips, the missed dinners, it's all documented. Rachel was very thorough. Rachel came clean. Because you manipulated her, like you manipulate everyone. He stands, and something in his expression makes me take a step back. You think you've won? That little display in the boardroom was just the beginning. I've got copies of everything. Every conversation, every confidential detail you ever shared. One anonymous email to your competitors. That would be corporate espionage. You'd go to jail. Maybe, but you'd lose everything you sacrificed our marriage for. He moves closer, his voice dropping. Unless what? Unless you agree to a settlement, my terms, starting with your resignation. The laugh escapes before I can stop it. You really think you can blackmail me? After everything? I think you care more about your precious career than anything else. So yes, I think you'll play ball. He pulls out his phone, presses play. My voice fills the room, discussing proprietary information about the San Francisco launch. One click, Vera. That's all it takes. I stare at him. This stranger wearing my husband's face. You know what the difference is between you and my father? He at least had the decency to leave cleanly. You're just a parasite, feeding off other people's success because you can't create your own. His hand shoots out, grabs my arm. Careful. Or what? You'll add physical intimidation to your list of crimes? I wrench away. Go ahead, Mark. Send the emails. Because while you've been plotting your little revenge scheme, I've been building a case of my own. You're bluffing. I pull out my own phone, dial Sophie's number. Send it. Send what? His confidence wavers. Everything. The recordings Rachel made of your planning sessions with Tommy. The emails where you detailed your scheme to sabotage me. Your meetings with my father. Oh yes, Mother followed you. She may be retired, but she's still excellent at documentation. The color drains from his face. By now, every board member at your firm has received a very interesting package. So has the SEC, since you were kind enough to record yourself planning to share insider information. You wouldn't dare. I already have. I move to leave, then pause. You know what your mistake was? Thinking this was about ambition. It was never about the career, Mark. It was about trust. And you destroyed that long before you tried to destroy me. This isn't over, he calls after me, desperation creeping into his voice. I turn back one last time. Actually, it is. I've already called a divorce attorney. And Mark? He specializes in cases involving corporate espionage and blackmail. As I walk away, my phone buzzes with messages. Probably the fallout beginning. But for the first time in months, my steps feel lighter. Mark thought he could use my past wounds against me, but he forgot something crucial. Sometimes old scars make you stronger. I get in my car, catch a glimpse of my reflection. The woman staring back isn't just surviving anymore. She's ready for war. My office door swings open without warning. Tommy stands there, face flushed with barely contained rage. You had no right. I don't look up from my laptop. The SEC disagreed. The board suspended Mark pending investigation. His career is over. Tommy slams a folder on my desk. But that wasn't enough for you, was it? Now I look up. What are you talking about? Check your email. Everyone at the firm got copies of Mark's personal correspondence. Every manipulative conversation, every scheme, even his messages with your father. It's all out there. My stomach drops. I hadn't authorized that release. When? An hour ago. Anonymous sender. Tommy leans forward. Mark's in the hospital. Suicide attempt. The world tilts sideways. I grab my phone. Dozens of missed calls from Sophie, my mother, numbers I don't recognize. He left this for you. Tommy tosses an envelope onto my desk. Hope your revenge was worth it. I wait until he's gone before opening it. Mark's handwriting, usually so precise, sprawls across the page. You won. Happy now? My phone rings. Sophie. Tell me you didn't do this, she says when I answer. I didn't. The SEC documents? Yes. But this... I stare at my computer screen, scanning the leaked emails. They're authentic, but the timing, the way they're organized... Someone else sent these. Check the metadata on the files, Sophie says. The timestamps. I'm already clicking through. They're from last week, when Rachel still had access to... Vera? My assistant appears in the doorway. Rachel Monroe is here, says it's urgent. She walks in before I can respond, looking nothing like the nervous intern from before. Surprised? She perches on the edge of my desk. You should have checked those recordings more carefully. The ones where Mark was supposedly planning everything? Edited. He wasn't orchestrating anything. I was. The phone slips from my hand. Why? Because you both deserved it. Mark for using me in his pathetic power play, and you for treating me like some pawn to be protected. Her smile turns cruel. I learned from the best, though. You taught me everything about strategic timing, about using people's weaknesses against them. Mark's jealousy, your righteousness. You made it so easy. Mark is in the hospital because of you. No, he's in the hospital because of us. Your evidence, my timing. Perfect collaboration, really. She stands. Oh, and I wouldn't bother trying to prove any of this. The original recordings are gone, and everyone already believes you're capable of this level of revenge. After all, you did send those SEC documents. She's right. Every move I made against Mark makes this seem like a natural escalation. I've created the perfect cover for Rachel's revenge. The board meets in an hour, Rachel continues, to discuss the company's reputation in light of recent events. Funny how having a vindictive executive reflects poorly on everyone. After she leaves, I sit in the growing darkness of my office. My phone keeps buzzing. Probably reporters, board members, maybe even my father. The carefully constructed walls of my life are crumbling, and I can't tell anyone the truth without sounding like I'm desperately deflecting blame. Sophie finds me there hours later. The board suspended you pending investigation. It's all over social media. The scorned wife who took revenge too far. Rachel played us both, I say quietly. Used our marriage as cover for her own revenge plot. And I gave her everything she needed. What are you going to do? I look at Mark's note again, then at the email announcing my suspension. Rachel was right. I taught her well. Too well. She understood that true revenge isn't just about hurting someone. It's about using their own actions to destroy them. I'm going to the hospital, I say finally. Mark needs to know the truth, even if no one else ever does. And then, I gather my things, feeling the weight of every decision that led to this moment. Then I'm going to learn what he already knows, what it feels like when your perfect plan becomes the weapon someone else uses to destroy you. The hospital corridor stretches endless and white. Mark's room is at the end, 742. The number glows like an accusation. Rachel's already there, perched beside his bed like a concerned colleague. She sees me first, her smile sharp as broken glass. Look who finally showed up. Mark turns his head, pale against the sheets. The bandages on his wrists peek out from under the hospital gown. Come to finish what you started? Actually, I pull out my phone. I came to play something for you both. Rachel's smile falters as I press play. Her voice fills the room. The plan's working perfectly. Mark's so desperate to prove himself, he'll believe anything. Yes, I have the edited recordings ready. Once Vera retaliates, we'll release everything. The color drains from Rachel's face. Where did you? Sophie's a graphic designer, I say quietly. She noticed the editing artifacts in your recordings right away. We've been building our own file since then. The real conversations, the original timestamps. No one will believe you. Rachel stands, backing toward the door. You're the vindictive ex-wife who happens to have friends at the SEC. I step aside as two agents enter the room. They're very interested in how an intern accessed confidential corporate information, and how that information was manipulated to affect stock prices. You're bluffing. Like you bluffed about Mark orchestrating everything? I turn to him. She played us both. Used your jealousy, my ambition, turned us into weapons against each other. The perfect revenge for not taking her seriously enough. Mark's expression shifts from confusion to rage. The promotion committee meetings? You recorded those too? Rachel's mask finally cracks. You deserved it. Both of you so caught up in your pathetic power games. Mark using me to get ahead, you treating me like some helpless intern who needed protection. I showed you both what real manipulation looks like. The agents move forward. Rachel throws one last venomous look at us both. At least I destroyed your marriage in the process. After they lead her away, silence fills the room like smoke. Mark won't look at me. The things I said to you. He finally manages. What I tried to do? Were exactly what she wanted. She knew your insecurities, my triggers. Played us like chess pieces. Why did you come back? After everything? I sink into the chair Rachel vacated. Because someone once told me that revenge destroys the person seeking it more than their target. Took me until now to understand what my mother meant. Grace always was the wisest of us. She's outside, with my father. His eyes widen. Vera, turns out nearly losing your son-in-law to suicide is enough to bring even divorced parents together. They're both willing to testify about Rachel's manipulation. Mark's hand moves toward mine, then stops. Can you ever forgive me? I don't know. The truth feels like glass in my throat. But I couldn't let you die thinking you deserved this. That either of us did. What happens now? I stand, feeling the weight of every decision, every mistake that led us here. Now? Rachel faces charges. The board reinstates us both once the truth comes out. And we learn to live with the scars. Apart, but maybe not as enemies. At the door, I pause. Mark, next time you feel overshadowed by someone's success, try therapy instead of corporate espionage. His surprised laugh follows me into the hallway where my parents wait. Mother's hand finds mine, steady and strong. Ready? I look back at room 742, where my marriage both ended and transformed into something else. Something scarred, but maybe eventually honest. Yes, I say. I think I finally am. The divorce papers sit unsigned on my desk, stark against the dark wood. Through my office window, I watch Rachel being escorted from the building, box of belongings in her arms. The SEC investigation revealed more than just her manipulation, a pattern of corporate espionage stretching back to her previous internships. My phone buzzes. A text from Mark. Signed my copy. Your turn. I pick up the pen, but another message comes through. A photo. Mark in therapy, giving a thumbs up. First session done. Turns out jealousy and inadequacy issues don't mix well with ambition. Who knew? Despite everything, I smile. We're not friends, not exactly, but we're learning to be something other than enemies. Sophie appears in my doorway. Ready for the board meeting? Almost. I sign the papers with steady hands, each stroke of the pen feeling less like an ending and more like a door opening. Did you send those files to Tommy? Evidence of Rachel's manipulation. Already done. His testimony should help clear both your names with the promotion committee. The boardroom feels different now. Faces that once held judgment now show understanding, maybe even respect. I take my seat as the CEO begins. In light of recent events, the board has reviewed both Vera and Mark Thompson's positions. He pauses, shuffling papers. Given the extraordinary circumstances and the evidence of manipulation by Rachel Monroe, we've decided to reinstate both executives, separately but equally. After the meeting, I find my mother waiting in my office. The movers are finished, she says. Your new place is ready. How's Dad doing? Better. He's thinking of moving back to the city. She hesitates. Sometimes it takes losing everything to realize what matters. Like a marriage falling apart to see its true foundation? Or a revenge plot revealing unexpected strength? She squeezes my hand. You could have destroyed Mark when Rachel's plan came to light. Instead, you chose truth over vengeance. Revenge would have been easier. But then you wouldn't be you. My computer chimes. An email from Rachel's replacement, confirming the San Francisco launch is back on track. Life moving forward, scars and all. I pack my briefcase, including the signed divorce papers. Tomorrow, they'll be filed. Tomorrow, Mark and I will officially become part of each other's past, but not as victims or villains, just as people who lost their way and found something else instead. Dinner? Sophie asks from the doorway. Tommy's joining us. Says he has some interesting stories about Rachel's early days at the firm. Actually, I say, I need to make one more stop. The hospital's psychiatric wing is quiet. Mark's therapist greets me with a surprised look. He's finishing up today's session. I'm not staying, just dropping this off. I hand her a small package. His grandfather's cufflinks, he left them at the house. Thought he might want them back. As I turn to leave, Mark emerges. We lock eyes briefly, and in that moment, I see something that makes me pause. Not love or hate or even regret, but understanding. We both sought revenge against perceived betrayals, and we both learned its true cost. The launch party, he says quietly. Will you need security there, given everything? Probably, but I was thinking of hiring your firm's team. They're experienced with corporate espionage now. His startled laugh echoes down the hallway. Some wounds never fully heal, but maybe they don't have to. Maybe it's enough that they teach us how to be stronger, wiser, more careful with the trust we give and receive. Outside, the city stretches before me, full of possibilities and pitfalls. I think about Rachel, about Mark, about my own reflection in this twisted mirror of revenge. We all wanted justice, but we found something more valuable instead. The truth about ourselves. My phone buzzes one last time. A message from my father. Dinner soon? I have some stories to tell. I smile and type my response. Yes, I think we all do.